Hi there. Welcome to the second of a series of videos that seek to explain the fundamentals of monitoring, evaluation, and learning. Today's video will cover evaluation. My name is Mutsa Carol Chinyamakovu. I'm an M&E data specialist with about 10 years worth of experience, and I hope that some of what I've learned along the way will be useful to you. If you're watching this video, you might be a M&E specialist or a project manager, maybe you're a business developer, or maybe you just need to track the success and impact of a program that you're working on. Maybe you work in a research institution, a government department, an NGO, maybe an international organization. Either way, I hope this video gives you the simplicity and clarity you need to understand what MEL is and the relevance of it. As we focus on evaluation today, we'll start by exploring some of the questions that evaluation seeks to answer. Then I'll give a solid definition of what evaluation is. And finally, we'll talk about whether all M&E is the same. This is important to think about because M&E is not an industry-specific tool. It can be applied across various sectors, and it's worth thinking about the context in which you are trying to apply monitoring and evaluation. Now, let's get right into it. Evaluation, as the word implies, is assessment. And in order to be assessing something, you need to have some results. Now, when we're talking about results or outcomes, in the case of M&E, you want to know what the outcomes are and if you have any unintended consequences to your program. You also want to know how good your results are. Okay, so are the results credible? Have they been verified? Suppose that you are running a training for basic financial skills, to keep with the example we've been using. If you're running a training on basic financial skills and you report that you had 50 participants attend your training, and then upon audit of your data, it is found that the 50 people on your attendance register do not exist, and the facilitator that you paid for running the training just went off with your money, filled out a register, and sent it back. Your results are no longer credible. It could also happen that you've submitted 50 participants as having attended your training, but 4 of the entries in your data are by the same John Smith who kept making an error on his ID number and only got it right the 5th time. So the first 4 entries by John Smith are incorrect, and now you only really have 46 participants, though you've been paid for 50. This is why it's important to verify your data. It's important to assess for the credibility of your data. And if you do find that there's negative unintended impact, you can then kind of put your foot forward and report on this and say, oh, well, oops, XYZ happened. We won't do this next time, or whatever the case is. Evaluation also seeks to assess the impact of your program. When we talk about impact, we're talking about the change that you managed to effect through your intervention. For whom did this change occur? If we stick to our example of the financial skills training that you are running, impact is, are people now saving? Are they now opening cost-effective bank accounts? Are they budgeting with their families? And all of this is information that you can assess. The reach of your program can go beyond your direct beneficiaries to what we call indirect beneficiaries, so people's families and their colleagues whom they work with. And this is all information that you would love to know, because it would be great to show that your program has a wider reach than what you had intended. And this kind of finding actually gives way to my favorite component, which is sustainability. The sustainability of your program is assessed by considering whether your intervention was feasible, whether it was acceptable or was it too bougie for that community, was it affordable or too expensive, and then can it be scaled to increase the reach or the scope? And finally, are there alternatives to investment? When you are able to collect data that is credible, that is reliable, and to show evidence of the impact of your work, you may suddenly open yourself up to alternative investors in your project. And this makes your program sustainable beyond its initial specified duration. Evaluation allows you to take a data driven approach to M&E and to ensuring the success and sustainability of your project. Now, the actual definition of evaluation, as you might have expected, is a very generic definition. All I'd like you to take away from this is that evaluation is an assessment of the performance of whatever you're doing, whether it's a project, a program, a policy, whatever the case is. Evaluation seeks to assess how it is performing. Now, evaluation focuses, as we mentioned before, on outcomes that you expect, accomplishments that you were expecting, and it examines the full results chain from activities to outputs, outcomes, impact, and whether you've achieved the goals of your intervention. Sometimes you might even be lucky and be able to assess how much your intervention contributed to the results and how much was contribution from other external factors. Evaluation, unlike monitoring, is performed after the intervention. If your intervention runs over a longer period of time, it can also be conducted at predefined intervals during the program. Is all M&E the same? Not quite. So, as we mentioned earlier, M&E can be applied across different sectors. And because it can be applied across different sectors, how you apply it depends on who you are monitoring and evaluating. You might be working with factory workers who speak a different language to you. If you ask them to fill out a survey, they may not have the necessary literacy to do that effectively. And so you need to make sure that you are using tools that are applicable in the environment in which you are in. Perhaps you are working with a project management team that needs internal alignment and unity of purpose to work towards whatever the vision of their organization is. Here, monitoring and evaluation again could look different. It does not have to be a survey. It does not have to be a series of assessments. It can also be workshops and participatory activities that develop a culture of evaluation and improvement, okay, of the work that they are doing. Now, because we live in the digital age, you can also have a lot of projects that lend themselves to completely remote engagement. And that's also valid and useful and fantastic for larger groups of beneficiaries or participants. Now, fundamentally, M&E is the same. When I say fundamentally, I mean in principle. M&E looks at where are we now and where do we want to go? Is your project or program progressing or performing as you had intended at the moment? If you were to assess your state of affairs in this present moment, how do things look? Are you heading in the direction that you intend to be going? And are you achieving the impact on the target beneficiaries and broader community that you want to have. M&E bridges the gap between where you are now and where you want to get in terms of impact. A definition I like is that M&E allows us to reimagine what needs work and reinvent what works well. Thanks very much for listening to this video. If you liked this content or if you have any questions, you can reach out to me at Datalab.Africa. You can also visit our website on www.datalab.africa, and these details will be in the show notes below as well. Our next video will cover the newly introduced component to monitoring and evaluation, which is the learning component. It is now called MEL because when you introduce learning, you now focus on improvement as a critical component of M&E. So look out for that video. And if you like this one, give us a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. Thanks, and see you next time.